Right, people, I don't know how many of you heard the Prime Minister speech today, asking people or telling people to avoid pubs, clubs, cinemas, and other venues of large gatherings. Avoid unnecessary contact with other people. So, this is what he has told the British population today. If the government's plan is to work, the best thing we can do is listen to what the Prime Minister has said and implement the government's plan by avoiding pubs, clubs, cinemas, restaurants, or any other venue with large gathering of people. Me, myself, I'm supposed to be going to college tomorrow to do some more of my photography. So I'll take a photography class. I do a lot of photography as it is, and you know, people love my work, but I'm trying to learn more. You can never learn all of it, just like a guitar. Once you learn how to play, there's still plenty more to learn, and you can play as good as the Shadows. Hank Marvin can play as good as him, but there's still more you can learn. So, I'm going to play this clip. You'll hear the audio of what the Prime Minister said today.
Bringing forward the right measures at the right time so that we minimize suffering and save life. And everything we do is based scrupulously on the best scientific advice. Last week, we asked everyone to stay at home if you had one of two key symptoms: a high temperature or a new and continuous cough. Today, we need to go further because according to SAGE, the Scientific Advisory Committee on Emergencies, it looks as though we're now approaching the fast growth part of the upward curve, and without drastic action, cases could double every 5 or 6 days. So, first, we need to ask you to ensure that if you or anyone in your household has one of those two symptoms, then you should stay at home for 14 days. That means that if possible, you should not go out even to buy food or essentials other than for exercise, and in that case, at a safe distance from others. If necessary, you should ask for help from others for your daily necessities. And if that is not possible, then you should do what you can to limit your social contact when you leave the house to get supplies. And even if you don't have symptoms, and if no one in your household has symptoms, there is more that we need you to do now. So, second, now is the time for everyone to stop non-essential contact with others and to stop all unnecessary travel. We need people to start working from home where they possibly can, and you should avoid pubs, clubs, theatres, and other such social venues. It goes without saying, repeat the message, we should all only use the NHS when we really need to, and please go online rather than ringing NHS 111. Now, this advice about avoiding all unnecessary social contact is particularly important for people over 70, for pregnant women, and for those with health conditions, with some health conditions. And if you ask, well, why are we doing this now? Why now? Why not earlier or later? Why bring in this very draconian measure? The answer is that we are asking people to do something that is difficult and disruptive of their lives. And the right moment, as we've always said, is to do it when it is most effective, when we think it can make the biggest difference to slowing the spread of the disease, reducing the number of victims, reducing the number of fatalities. And as we take these steps, we should be focusing on the most vulnerable. So third, in a few days' time, by this coming weekend, it will be necessary to go further and to ensure that those with the most serious health conditions are largely shielded from social contact for around 12 weeks. And again, the reason for doing this in the next few days rather than earlier or later is that this is going to be very disruptive for people who have such conditions, difficult for them, but I believe it's now necessary. And we want to ensure that this period of shielding, this period of maximum protection, coincides with the peak of the disease. And it's now clear that the peak of the epidemic is coming faster in some parts of the country than in others. And it looks as though London is now a few weeks ahead. So, to relieve the pressure on the London health system and to slow the spread in London, it's important that Londoners now pay special attention to what we're saying about avoiding non-essential contact and to take particularly seriously the advice about working from home and avoiding confined spaces such as pubs and restaurants. Now, lastly, it remains true, as we've said in the last few weeks, that risks of transmission of the disease at mass gatherings, such as sporting events, are relatively low. But obviously, logically, as we advise against unnecessary social contact of all kinds, it's right that we should extend that advice to mass gatherings as well. And so we've also got to ensure that we have the critical workers we need that might otherwise be deployed at those gatherings to deal with this emergency. So from tomorrow, we will no longer be supporting mass gatherings with emergency workers in the way that we normally do. So mass gatherings, we're now moving emphatically away from. And I know that many people, including millions of fit and active people over 70, may feel, listening to what I've just said, that there is something excessive about these measures. But I have to say, I believe they are overwhelmingly worth it to slow the spread of the disease, to reduce the peak, to save life, minimize suffering, and to give our NHS the chance to cope. Over the last few days, I've been comparing notes and talking to leaders around the world, and I can tell you that the UK is now leading a growing global campaign amongst all our friends and allies, whether in the G7, the G20, UN, the IMF, all those bodies in which we play a significant role. We're leading a campaign to fight back against this disease, to keep the economy growing, to make sure that humanity has access to the drugs and the treatments that we...
Well, there you go, people. That's the crux of the matter. So, the British people want to stay safe, don't want to catch this virus. I want to help put a stop to this virus. We all need to stick together and listen to what our Prime Minister said and follow his instructions. Just like the people did of this great country of ours, this great nation did in the Second World War. They all pulled together as one and done what needed to be done. Regardless of how hard it was, they done it. We need to use that spirit now with this virus and listen to the Prime Minister. Stay away from pubs, clubs, cinemas or any social gathering, be it a bingo hall or whatever. Don't go. The more of us that stay home and off the streets, the less the virus can spread from one person to another, because there's nobody out there for it to spread to. Then we, as a nation, as a British people, can beat this virus and get back to our normal lives sooner than later. God bless. Be safe.